Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode in my YouTube series, Proverbs, God's Encouragement for You. Today in episode 12, we are going to be going through chapter 13 of Proverbs. I'm really excited to read this with you guys. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you guys are following along with me, I'm going to be starting in verse 1. I am reading from the ESV version, so if you're reading from a different version, that's totally okay. But just want to let you know so there isn't any confusion. So, starting in verse 1, it says here, "A wise son hears his father's instructions, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. From the fruit of his mouth a man eats what is good, but the desire of the treacherous is for violence. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin." Now, I want to stop there in verse 3. I really like what this says because this is something I feel like we can all take to heart and something that I feel like everyone struggles with. It says, "Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life, but whoever opens wide his lips comes to ruin." In this, it's talking about not having self-control over what we say. So if we don't have self-control over what comes out of our mouth or preserve what we say, it can hurt people physically, emotionally, mentally, all those things. And that's what it's saying here. Someone who let me read again. Who guards his mouth, so watching what he says, what comes out of his mouth, he preserves life. But someone who opens wide his lips comes through and saying he just lets whatever comes to his head spewing out of his mouth, and that can hurt people. So we have to be very, very careful of what we say, especially when we are talking to other believers as well. We have to be very careful because the devil will use our words. Our mouth is a very strong weapon to use that we can use for good, but also use for evil. And the devil is going to try to use that against you. So we need to be very careful what we say because we don't want to be the one that turns people's lives into ruins. So continuing to verse 4. "The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. The righteous hates falsehood, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but sin overthrows the wicked." Now, this is also a really cool verse I really like reading here. It says, "Righteousness guards him who is blameless." Now, what it's saying here, I really like the analogy they put it in. It's like, when they say blameless, they don't mean like someone who's perfect, because no one's perfect. But someone who lives a blameless-like life, like who lives to serve Christ and live for Christ, which is going to make their life look blameless. Who lives a blameless life, righteousness will guard them because we're living that righteous life to please God, to serve God, and show that light to other people. Now, obviously, we're going to mess up and make mistakes, but that's besides the point. It's saying someone who lives a righteous and blameless life, as in trying to give God glory. But we will be protected by that righteousness. But sin overthrows the wicked, saying people who live in sin, they're going to be overthrown by it. The devil loves to use our sin against us. That's what it's for. Sin is to go against God's will. And he's going to use everything in his power to try to overthrow us. And I really like that. It's saying like what we've mentioned before in the last several episodes is we should try to pursue and live a righteous life. A life pleasing and acceptable to God, and showing that to other people and being encouragement to others as well. Verse 7, "One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. The ransom of a man's life is his wealth, but a poor man hears no threat. The light of the righteous rejoice, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out." Now, this is a cool analogy as well. I don't know if you guys remember the song, "This Little Light of Mine." This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And then the one part in the song where it's like, "Don't let Satan it out or put it under a basket." Those things. I think of that when it talks about this verse right here, in saying that the light of the righteous rejoices. So when the light of the righteous. So our light, when we follow God, when we live that righteous life, it's like a big, huge fire, like a big, huge torch that's lighting it's lighting that path, that dark path for us, so we can see. And that's what it's referencing there. But the lamp of the wicked will be put out. So when we live a wicked life, there is no light. There's only darkness. When we live a life that is pleasing towards Satan, there is no light, because the absence of light is dark. So when you aren't living in the light, when you are not living in Christ, you are living in sin and with the devil and that darkness. So it's going to be like you can't see anything. So when you live a life of wickedness, that light gets blown out and you won't be able to see. And I really like that analogy. And I feel like that's an analogy that we can use very well in our lives even today, of we should be that light. Like what we mentioned, we should be that light, that lighthouse, to help guide other people down the right path. We don't want to live in that darkness and mislead people. Verse 10, by insolence comes nothing but strife, but with those who take advice is wisdom. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Hope deferred make the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself, but the one who reveres the commandment will be rewarded. This is also a great verse that I want to go over real quick as well. Whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself. Now, we see in this world, and this has been going on literally since the creation of the world, we see people even now who are despising God's word and despising God and are fighting against God. And they're like, there is no God. God is evil. He doesn't really love us. All this kind of stuff. And we see when it says here, in verse 13, whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself. We see those people living such a destructive life and such a life full of sin. And it's heartbreaking to see. But he who reveres the commandments will be rewarded. We know that in passages in the Bible, it talks about how for those who live a righteous life, there will be other rewards in heaven, like the crown of life, all these other things that we get. And it's not to say like, oh, we're better than this person or we're better than that person, but it's saying like what we leave here on earth will have an impact throughout eternity. So when we pass on into heaven, our impact that we had on people will be spread out. It's like a ripple effect. It'll ripple across the world. And we want that because we want to impact other people and spread the gospel like that. We'll be rewarded for what we did here. Not saying that it gets you to heaven, but we'll be rewarded for living a life towards Christ and leading others to Christ. And I love how they reference that there too. Just saying like whoever despises the word, people who fight against it, atheists, all these other people, they live a life of destruction and like pushing people away from Christ when in reality they're not. Well, in reality, they believe that they are pushing people to Christ when in reality they're turning people away from Christ, and that's the work of Satan, and we don't want that. But those who revere the commandments of God, who live according to his word and live a life pleasing to him, they will be rewarded. Verse 14, the teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, it's a fountain of life that one may turn away from the snares of death. This one I also love. One thing I love about Proverbs is all these analogies that they use to help us understand how we can imagine this in our own life. In verse 14, the teaching of the wise is a fountain of life. Like I mentioned before in the previous episodes, when we take advice from another person, it can be very helpful. If we take advice from the right person, it can be very, very helpful in our life. But the teaching of the wise is like a fountain of life. It brings more life to us. Like when we take advice, like as a believer, one thing I love to do is like I ask my pastors, my youth pastors, people in the church questions, and like I ask for advice and they give me that advice, and it feels so refreshing to hear that. I'm like, okay, this is really helpful for me. This is refreshing to hear. And like questions, anything. And it's like a fountain of life. If it gives me more life, it feels like I feel stronger spiritually and I feel like I can take on the world. And I just love how it references that here. It's like a fountain of life. It gives you more energy. It gives you more life. Not physically, obviously, but it gives you that, like a sense of power that feels like you can accomplish more. And it helps us to turn away from the snares of death. Satan is going to try to pull us away from that. But if we lean on people that God has put in our lives, we can be rejuvenated and revived. and staying away from all that evil. Verse 15, good sense wins favor, but the way of the treacherous in their ruin. Every prudent man acts with knowledge, but a fool flaunts his folly. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful envoy brings healing. Poverty and disgrace come to him who ignores instruction, but whoever heeds reproof is honored. A desire fulfilled is sweet of the soul, but to turn away from evil is an abomination to fools. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. This is another really good verse I want to open up with. Just the first part, it's self-explanatory, but it's so true. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Like the way they pray, it's like amazing. It's like if you walk with someone who has a lot of wisdom, you're gonna become more wiser because they're gonna give that wisdom to you. They're gonna give you the wisdom that they've been given and pass it down to you, and then you're gonna get more wise, and you're gonna do the same thing, and so on and so forth. So when you walk with someone wise, when we walk with people, wise people like that, you become more wise because they're throwing down your knowledge to you. And I love that. It's so cool. And that's something I want to encourage you guys is don't be afraid to ask questions to people, especially in your church, your pastors, youth pastors. If you have questions, they want to give their wisdom to you and share that wisdom with you so you can feel more wise and more strengthened in your spiritual walk with the Lord. Verse 21, disaster pursues sinners, but the righteousness are rewarded with good. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. The fallow ground of the poor would yield much food, but it is swept away through injustice. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. The righteousness has enough to satisfy his appetite, but the belly of the wicked suffers want. I want to go back to verse 24 because if you are a parent, you will understand this. And obviously, I'm not a parent yet, but this is something my parents have taught me, and I've learned in multiple youth groups. And it's such an important thing, especially when you become a parent. Like when it says, "Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him." This has been taken out of context in a lot of ways I've heard, and just to make sure people understand this, I want people to understand that when it says, whoever spares the rod hates his son, and they're like, wait, why would he want to hurt his son? Isn't that the good thing that he's sparing it? It's like, no. What he's saying is, when your child misbehaves, your child must be disciplined. And like, for example, for me, when I was a kid, if I did something wrong, I would get a spanking. And in the terms of this, my father did not spare the rod. He gave it to me. And I am very grateful that he did because I learned so many good lessons through that. But the difference is when your parents discipline you, like spanking, other forms of discipline, they're not doing it because they hate you. They're doing it because they love you and they want you to learn from your mistakes and not do that again. One thing I loved that my parents do is after they would spank me or if they discipline me, they would come and give me a hug and say, I love you. I want you to know that I love you and I'm not doing this to hurt you, but I'm doing this to help you. Because before I make a mistake, I'll remember, if I do this, I could get in a lot of trouble and I could get spanked. Do I want to go through that again? And I'll be like, of course not. And that's what it's saying here. Whoever spares his rod hates his son. If you are not disciplining your children, you're basically in letting them do whatever they want. It's kind of like you're hating your children. You don't truly love them because you don't want what's best for your children. But he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. Just like my parents, they would discipline me. They would spank me. If I did something wrong, they would spank me. But they would make sure I knew that they did it out of love. And I knew that. They would give me a hug and I felt like everything was better. And I learned from my mistakes from that. And that's something I want to encourage you guys with as we go through this is take wisdom from people that are around you, that you are with, especially your parents. Your parents have lived a very long life of taking in wisdom and giving wisdom to others. And your your family are one of the best places to gain wisdom from. That's something I encourage you guys with as well. But live that righteous life, guys. Live a life for the Lord to please God and be that torch, that light that leads others down the right path through that darkness that the Satan will try to engulf you with. But as long as you hold on to that light, there's nothing that can stop you. So I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this is an encouragement for you guys. I know this has been an encouragement for me. I hope you guys are enjoying these. If you guys are, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you guys watch the other previous videos as well from the other episodes if you haven't seen them. And I hope you guys have a great day. God bless you guys and have a great weekend.